Hello. This is not a Hollies video for the 6 fans of the Hollies who watch those. None of you even watched the last one. I don't know how that Beatles quiz. The friends of mine who messaged me saying, "Do you have the link for it?" Because I can't find it. They make it impossible to find. It could be a YouTube algorithms thing, but I thought I'd shoot this video anyway. I feel like I should clear something up about. This is the best angle I could get. I'm going to be dodging this. I'm sorry. This Paul McCartney business is probably, I don't know, people who are, well, hello first of all. If you saw the word Paul McCartney and clicked on this and have no idea who I am or my style, how I just press record and talk and don't edit it or nothing, and don't overdub the sound or nothing like that. And you might have seen some of my live clips and thought, what's this? Why is he ragging on Paul McCartney all the time? I mean, I'm a guy with 6 fans. Paul McCartney has millions and millions. He's not going to see this. He's not going to care. But I need to explain that I am a giant, massive, die-hard fan of Paul's. Big time. And the time is going to come when he's sadly no longer with us. And I am absolutely dreading that. I'm going to probably shut myself in my room for centuries. And no, it is, I do. And so you've probably seen some things that say, hey, this is a song by Paul McCartney when he was still good. Or I say, I've got it's upstairs, I've got like a freedom pass. And I say, if you want to know how I got this, I went in a room and they interviewed me and they say, can you remember when Paul McCartney was still good? And I say, yes, I can. And they go, here's a freedom pass. That all this kind of stuff about him. Since I was a kid, I've mined guitar left-handed. I'm a massive fan of his, okay? I'm not... if a member of your family winds you up, and you go to another member of your family, and you say, oh, you know what's that? So-and-so really wound me up, and you have like a vent about it. But if a complete stranger comes up to you and goes, hey, that member of your family is such a wind-up, you go, hey, that's the member of my family you're talking about. So that's what it's like with people who aren't Paul McCartney fans who slag him off. I go, hey, you leave him alone. Like, he played the guitar solo on Taxman, you know what I mean, and stuff like that. When I do a song about him on one of my albums, I've forgotten about that actually. A little thing about him, just listing a list of great things he done. I don't know. I haven't really thought about the order in which I'm gonna discuss all this, but the whole Paul McCartney not good thing. The voice doesn't bother me. There are a lot of fans who go, what do you expect? He's 82 years old. And I say, well, there are underrated 82-year-olds who sing perfectly fine. Graham Nash, Colin Blunstone, who's not 82 yet, but you see the point I'm making. Peter Straker, obviously. People in their 80s who still have good voices. So I don't subscribe to that. Fans who give him a free pass, for going, freedom pass. You go, oh, what do you expect? He's 80, is he 83 now? 1942. Yeah, he's nearly 84. In June. See, I am a fan. Yeah, and the whole still a good thing. So Beatles were famously never ever repeated themselves, and there's this whole divide thing where you got Paul and Ringo on one side and John and George on the other. Now, the obvious one is John and George are dead, Paul and Ringo are alive. The other one is John and George are right-handed, Ringo and Paul are left-handed. But the thing I'm getting at is, even if all 4 were still alive, there seems to be John and George went down the sort of credible sort of artist route, and Ringo and Paul went down the kind of family entertainer kind of, Ringo and Paul made TV specials. John and George didn't. Ringo and Paul loved touring and playing live. They didn't for a long time, but, putting that aside, they couldn't wait to get back to it. John and George hated playing live. George only did 2 tours. Well, if you can call the Japan thing a tour, that weren't even a tour. Then John did about 4 concerts or something. There is a story that he planned this big world tour in 1981. I mean, and they made a film about that, and it's very recent. I enjoy the film, but I'd never heard this story, and it didn't show any of the drawings. It said that there were drawings of it and design. I don't know, but anyway, the point I'm getting at. And they never, ever repeated themselves. They used to like to do their thing and then move on. It's why famously a Beatles thing from, August was completely out of date yesterday's news by, like, October. That was a big thing with Beatles. And Paul has repeated himself, like literally in interviews. No matter what you ask him, he'll get onto the story about, oh, my mother came to me in a dream, and it's like, God. And Ringo's the same. Oh, I thought it was you three. Whereas John and George would come up with ad-libs in the moment. Every interview they did was very entertaining. And in John's case, it wasn't always historically accurate. And if he did repeat himself, he would say, oh, I'm sorry, I'm repeating myself. I've said this before, but, I look at it like you're looking through a ship. You're in a ship and you're looking at the top of it, that thing. And he would say he repeats it. But Paul and Ringo won't. They would just have a stock set of rehearsed things that they repeat no matter what you ask them. Like Anthology, Ringo talks about the whole I thought it was you three, and then he did it again in the George Harrison, Martin Scorsese thing, and that really should have been edited out because like fans already know that, stuff like that. And there's outtakes of them. I think it's I'm a Loser, and Paul goes, the harmony goes, I don't want to be corny, I don't want to be seen as corny. That was a big thing, and he sort of became the thing he never wanted to. He's like an embarrassing dad. There's like TikTok videos of him dancing and that. It's like, I also say, the whole people calling him Sir Paul, I would never call him that. He's Paul McCartney. He's one of four guys, and I hate how it's become Paul-centric. There were four of them in that group, and if one of them wasn't in it, it would not have been that group. Paul was, there's no doubt whatsoever. He was the best, most talented musician out of all of them. And he could do the most things. He could probably. There's an argument who writes catchier songs. I mean, Paul's got more, but then John would have. Paul would have 10 things. Hey, look at me, look at me. John would go, yeah, right. All you need is love. Whoa. Paul would have loads and loads, and then John, yeah, right. Give peace a chance. Whoa. One of John's things would be, and there is. Well, Neil Aspinall tells a story of when they all got Beatles haircuts. Paul, when he was the last one, when he finally did get one, he'd go, hey, look, hey. Whereas John and George would never do that. But Paul would, he's a bit, look at me. And if anyone in the history of pop music doesn't need to be, hey, look at me, hey, then that's Paul McCartney. He doesn't need to be this way, but he is. Even like decades later, like on the one hand, he misses John. Brian May's very similar. He literally still has dreams about Freddie Mercury, but he'll also say, "I remember, I'm the guy who wrote We Will Rock You." It wasn't just Freddie. And Paul does that with John. Like he misses him like absolute crazy, as you would, even 46 after his murder. But also, he's like, yeah, but John didn't. I did this too, and there's a little bit of that to him. And the point I'm getting at is like, I love rehearsal versions of Hey Jude, but Paul McCartney has ruined Hey Jude. You know what I mean? It's like the whole, okay, now just the people on the left, now just the women. It's like, what are you? The Paul McCartney with the other, John and George still alive, sort of chipping in. He would never have not that he wouldn't have got away with it, he wouldn't even have done it. He would. There's tapes of the Beatles, like You Know My Name, is mocking people who do that. That whole, hey, you know my name, look up the number, and they're ripping the piss out of it. Paul McCartney has become that in recent times, and well, not recent times, John and George would, the whole Sir thing, they wouldn't even have made George Harrison or John Lennon a Sir. They wouldn't even have done that. And had they done that, if they did do that, they very likely would have turned it down. They probably would have. And that's the whole thing I'm trying to get at this. Paul, so the jokes, it's just, he's never ever going to see my channel. And another thing with him is because there are so many millions and millions and millions and millions of fans, that if I were to meet Alan Clark or Mike Pender or, may he rest, Jerry Marsden, right, and say, hey, I really love that weird obscure B-side of yours, he'd go, whoa, you've heard that? You actually know that? If you were to do it with Paul McCartney, it doesn't matter how obscure it is, like Ode to a Koala Bear or something like that, or, I don't know, a remix of Uwe Le Soleil. I was like, see, I am a fan of his, I don't, it wouldn't mean anything. He'd go, oh, right, yeah. I just wouldn't. So many people have met him and interviewed him and stuff that I wouldn't like. I mean, I could ask him stuff. I want to know about Pinwheel Twist. Like, no one has ever. Maybe Mark Lewison has asked him about that, or maybe he hasn't. There's no interview, as far as I'm aware, of him talking about that. And you know, there's just. And no matter what you ask him, even if you were to say, "How does Pinwheel Twist go?" You know, how does Winston's Walk go? How does Through the Looking Glass go? He'd probably answer with, "Well, John and I used to sag off school, and you know, well, you know, I saw my mother in a dream, you know," and it just gets. You know, so I wouldn't like to. I don't really dream about meeting him and stuff. So, more recently, he's got a new song out, and this is what eventually I'm going to get to. I haven't explained it very well. I hope it makes more sense. It probably doesn't, but if you do stumble across one of my videos and I'm saying Paul McCartney when he was still good, I hope this is kind of me explaining why I say that. I don't even like to repeat jokes. But there are a lot of times when I do, like, but I don't really. Mostly, I don't. I come up with something in the moment and say it. But the Paul McCartney still good thing that does get repeated a lot, and I'm aware of that. I'm going to try and calm down from saying that now, but so I find that his albums, like, everyone has sent me stuff. Hey, have you heard this new? I think, is there something wrong with me? Like, I've not liked any of his albums since about 2002, I think. Driving Rain, which a lot of people slag off. I like some of that. That was the last one I bought. I spent money on. I willfully waited for, spent money on, and listened to. There's a song in there called Heather. Now, Heather is his daughter, not the wife that he divorced, that everyone's, you know, saying is whatever. It was a 1969 song. That's why that song's good, because it's from 1969, and it's a great song. It's got some great chords. I could do without the whispering at the end. I could do without that. You know, but the chords and the song, and when it goes from half time to double time and that, and his band are a bit like Brian Wilson's band. The drummer is acting like, hey, and all smug and that. A bit like when you can't watch a Brian Wilson concert without his band doing all this hand signals, and they're all praying, and they're all going, oh, it's a miracle. It's like Brian Wilson's foaming at the mouth, and they're going, oh, look, the foam coming out of his mouth is words of poetry. And it's like, stop being so. Is it sanctimonious? I don't know what the word is. It might be. And Paul McCartney's band are a bit like that. The drummer just doing, will you like some English tea? And he's going, oh, look, dip the tea bag. And it's like, it's really tacky. And his 90s band were kind of tacky. I mean, I like Hamish and I like Robbie, you know, of the Wigs. Linda's a legend. And of course, he had Blair and he had Chris, didn't he? And I like them, but there's just something about, you know, Paul's got that mullet and the waistcoat and he's going, hey, this song goes back. Girls used to scream. And it's like, he never used to be like that. I don't subscribe to this Paul is dead thing, these people who think he was replaced, but there is definitely a change. It is definitely a different Paul McCartney, and when I say he used to be good, and there is a song on my album that hasn't come out yet called Get Real, and I'm talking about, it's not specifically about Ringo and Paul, it's just in general. It's like, stop repeating stories and be what you used to be like. And but obviously it's easier said than done, I guess. Look, whenever Chaos and Creation, or all those Paul McCartney albums, he just, to me, sounds like he's trying to be like hip and modern rather than speak from the heart or do his own thing. Like McCartney too was his own thing. You could argue he's trying to get with the 1980s, you know, but no, I think he is doing his own thing on that, and he released it, and he didn't care what people thought, and I missed when he used to be like that. And there's like film of him doing like glasses and stuff, but he's going, look, I'm doing glasses, and look, I'm using a tape, and it's become, it just doesn't feel natural. And that whole McCartney 3, when he said, I'm not even going to say the word. Alright, I'm going to say the word rock, and I'm going to say the word down, but putting it, oh my god, and it was like, hey, this is really cool. It's like, yeah, and he's been on the roof, and that's it. The Simpsons. George Harrison in The he sums it up. George Harrison and Paul McCartney can be completely summed up by at least 3 seconds of George Harrison in a limousine. He winds down the window, he looks up on the rooftop, and he goes, it's been done, and then drives off. That is the difference between George Harrison and Paul McCartney right there can be summed up. You know, he'll go back on the roof, he'll do the zebra crossing, and he'll do that like people do. Like the real Beatles, when they were together, they just walked across it. They didn't think, they didn't try, they didn't pose. They walked across it, and Ian McMillan took, 6 or 5 photos or whatever it was. And that was it. But Paul McCartney went back to it. Hey, I'm going to take my shoes off. And he's like standing like that and he's recreating it. It's like, you wouldn't get George and John doing stuff like that. Apart from once, it was John's idea, I think, to go back to EMI House and lean on the balcony, pose on the balcony. Yeah, John did that. And okay, George, yeah, in Ding Dong and in When We Was Fab, okay, he put his Beatles suit back on. But it was great to see that they didn't do it the way Paul does. He didn't go, hey, look, I've got me, and they only did it once. John went on that balcony once in 1969, or twice, because they had to reshoot the... Okay, he went twice, because they had to redo it. But I'm still sticking to my point. You kind of see what I'm getting. You probably don't, but diehard Beatles fans, I hope, will kind of see what I'm getting at with the whole, Beatles repeating themselves thing. And I get it. I mean, I miss there's people, friends of mine who I never see anymore. There's like people who've died and stuff, and who doesn't want to go back and relive it? So I'm not knocking them for it. It just becomes a bit. There's just a way to do it. There's a way to do it, and a way not to be so about it. You know what I mean? And so when New came out, now if you call your album New, like you're gonna date yourself, because already is that like 2011? Is it? That's like 15 years ago now, but I remember it coming out and hearing a bit of the song New, and it had this da 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 da. I thought, this is alright. A bit like a cross between Penny Lane and Say You Don't Mind, which ironically is a Denny Lane song, so Paul McCartney being inspired by a Denny Lane song. And I thought that's kind of a nice kind of thing there. And I remember, I thought, you know what? And he was good. I liked him in interviews. He was talking about not Beatles, he was talking about childhood, like they played this game called Queenie Eye or whatever, or they sang this nursery rhyme or whatever it was. And I thought, man, this might be good, and I went to FOP and I picked it up off the shelf and I stood in the queue. I was dead excited. As I was in there, this music was playing. It was just background music. It was doing nothing for me. I didn't really go, oh, what's this or anything like that. And then I got to the front of the queue and it turns out, and I think maybe I saw a sign saying now playing or something, but that was the new album, Paul McCartney New, and I thought, this is no good at all. This is not doing anything for me. So I put it back on the shelf and I walked out. McCartney 3 was another one. It was just it felt too forced for me, or like someone in his office telling him, hey, do this thing you used to do, and him, rather than him naturally kind of. An Egypt Station was, again, I have a diehard friend of mine, is that right? Diehard friend of mine? I'm going to say it again. I had a diehard friend of mine. I don't know if I mean that or if I mean another word, but and he used to have a go at me and say, how can you not like this? And I said, it just sounds like boy band music. It's even got the da da da, that melody that everyone, modern songwriters all do, that da da da, the hidey-high thing, ding ding ding. Every damn Taylor Swift song has this. Every modern songwriter, I think, has those three in it, those three notes in it. All those Swedish people who write pop songs and that, and it even had that in it. And it's just, I want it to be so, I sort of want to like it. I know me, Mr. Mayo, accuses people of going into it negatively thinking, I'm not going to like this. I hope I've demonstrated that that's not true at all. Like I say, when New came out, I went down to FOP and I was like dead excited, yeah, this time it's going to be different. And it's just Paul McCartney album after Paul McCartney album after Paul McCartney album. Just disappointed. When Paul and Ringo turned 80, their interviews did start getting more enjoyable. They come out with new stuff that they're remembering. They're still repeating some stuff, but I've started to sort of look forward to seeing them be interviewed again. There were some great Ringo ones, since someone asking him if he's got pet dogs or so, that was a nice one. Things like that. And I hope that in their 80s they were, because John and George aren't so lucky. Ringo and Paul are lucky, and Stuart. Ringo and Paul and Pete Best, I count Pete, were lucky enough to get to their 80s, and maybe something inside you changes when you get to 80 and you have another sort of wave of remembering stuff. There's stuff I remembered that I'd forgotten all about. Like, I saw some college mates the other day at an open mic, for example, who I knew in 1997, and things I hadn't thought about for centuries just came back. It can happen. So every time a new Paul McCartney album comes out, so to me, he wants to get the newest producer, or he wants to get Kanye West on it, or whatever, or Taylor Swift, or whoever it is, and try and it just, rather than do, like, these people, he shouldn't be, a legend such as Paul McCartney shouldn't be going, hey, what do these young, what are they, young, Taylor Swift's 40 now, isn't it? It's just like something like that. But you know, what do these younger people? You know, it should be the younger people going, hey, what does that legend think? What would that legend sing on my album? You know, it should be the other way around. You know what I mean? And so finally, these signs started to come out of a Liverpool street sign called Dungeon Lane, and I have never heard of Dungeon Lane. Now I know the Cast Iron Shore, and of course I knew the Paul McCartney song when he goes, I grew up in Liverpool and I'll never regret it, I'll never forget it, whatever that song is. And of course he mentions Dungeon Lane in that song, but I either forgot that or didn't notice it. But I'm like, so there's a new Paul McCartney story that we've never heard, I'd never heard of, and oh well, this is exciting, but I've been burnt before. I'm not going to get all excited about it until I hear some of it. But, you know, it was exciting. I thought, well, he might be talking about George, because he talks about John. But remember, he knew George when he was a young kid. He knew John when he was a teenager. But George, he knew when he was even younger. So, well, this might be good in talking about that. It's really windy here. I hope you can hear. I hope this doesn't fall off. Yeah, and I'm seeing all these like Liverpool street signs and that. And, of course, people are now probably going to nick Dungeon Lane and that. Although they might not, because I don't know if Paul McCartney himself, it's not like a Beatles thing. It's a Paul McCartney thing, but I think I was talking about the concerts as well. Like you know, these people who they keep showing the audience going all nuts, and I don't know. It just like it's not for me. I would never pay £1,000 to sit in the O2 miles away and see this tiny guy warbling, his band behaving like, you know, morons and that. But I'm not. I used to say to this. Look. If people are going to go around stabbing each other, like this is my choice. Go around stabbing each other or go to a Paul McCartney concert. I would rather that, you know. I mean, just because it's not for me, but I'm not going to sit here. I hate those people who go, he should retire, or you're an idiot if you. Hey, if you want to spend £1,000, good. I don't care. I don't want to do that. I've bought things that, you know, autograph stuff that, you know, other people, or the same copy of, you know, Please Please Me or whatever, you know. So I'm not knocking that. It's just not for me, that's all. And it's my idea. I'd rather watch an old film of him in Wings with black hair. Although in Wings he is starting to go a bit, you know, he is starting to get a bit, but he's still talking his natural way in interviews, the way he used to talk in interviews by the time of Wings. And yeah, I wouldn't, and I don't mind about the croaky voice, that don't bother me so much. Just ruining Hey Jude. Yeah, I saw her standing there, that's another one. I love early takes of the Beatles doing that on the radio or live, but I hate pub bands doing it, and that Paul just sounds like a pub band doing that song, and it's just lost it for me. It's just lost it for me, that's all. That and Hey Jude and things. And I do get what people are saying there. Wouldn't you want to be in the same room as a legend, the original guy who was on that recording? And yeah, because I've gone to see Mike Pender, Bobby Elliott, Tony Hicks, John McNally, a few of them, Beaky, of course, and it's like, you're the original Mighty Wild, you're the original guy at Peter Strickland on that record. It's just Paul McCartney, to me it doesn't feel like he is the same guy. I know he sing that song with That Was Me in the Cellar, Sweating Buckets, and it's the same me that's here with you now, but it's not. It's a guy who's saying something he's learned, not a guy who's naturally remembering stuff. That's why I like this story. There was always this rumour about him that if you got to go on a tour with him, he would go to other parts of Liverpool where that the tourist places don't go to and stuff. And that's real Paul. That's him genuinely. That's not him for some talk show trying to remember the thing that he's repeating again. So maybe there is a bit of the old Paul still in there, you know, who does remember that, rather than a guy saying, oh, and then John did this, and then that's where I did this, and that's where I put my sandals on. You know, it's like, it just doesn't feel. It feels like he's learnt it. He's learnt it is what it feels like a bit. And then I saw Jimi Hendrix, and he did Sgt. Pepper the day it came out, and then I played Foxy Lady. It's like when you go and see him on tour, and he repeats, and they do, what's that? You Never Give Me Your Money, and he goes, this is the bit where I don't know the words, and it's like, but then you do that every night, and then the next tour you do it again. It's like you're not really. You know, that's so rehearsed. It's like he's rehearsed. Maybe in soundcheck once he did forget the words. And then he went, oh, da 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 da, I forgot the words, da 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 da. And then it was funny, and then he decided to keep it. But then he learnt it, and he learnt that. He learnt, this is the bit where I don't know the words, rather than that. He probably did ad-lib that once, but then it turned into a thing that got repeated. So, yeah, I was just never interested in going and seeing him live, or getting a thing autographed by him. I would have a Beatles collection signed by George on his own, if I could only get one of them, rather than Paul. There's just something about George. I know he's very down on Beatles. He says, oh, bloody sodding Beatles and that, but you know that he was kind of proud of it as well. And he used it. I don't care what... He gives it all, oh, Harry Krishna, I don't care about fame, you know, Krishna, that's all I care about. And no, he used his Beatles connection for his game. Now, I know there's stories about him going like... There's something about him going to Wembley and he was able to get to the front or something and said, I was a Beatle and stuff. So George was not above doing that. There's a bit I'm forgetting. I don't mind him doing Benefit of Mr. Kite. I think that's fine. People had to go at him for doing that. So it's a John song. He shouldn't do that. I don't know. I don't mind him doing that. And was it From Me to You? He did Please Please Me, didn't he? I don't know if he's done From Me to You. I don't mind that. Okay, what stuff I'm saying, oh, he used to be good. Like, there's a loads about him that I don't mind. I'm glad that he's making people happy, rather than people, this is going to fall off, isn't it? Rather than people be upset. And Paul McCartney, so there are some great videos then, I'll tell you, that's what I meant. Some great videos of people being surprised, and they get Paul McCartney tickets, and they go, wow. I love, there's such feel-good videos, these things. Or like they go, the lift, they go in a hotel or something, and the lift door opens, and Paul McCartney walks out, and they're like, ah. I love that, just because it's not, I mean, I probably, if I saw him in real life, of course I'm not going to go, oh, that's that guy who used to be good. Of course I'm going to go, oh my God, it's Paul McCartney. But there'd be too many people around. I wouldn't want to go and bug him or get anything autographed by him or something, because he's too famous. This is why I like people like the Hollies and the Searchers and like underrated stuff. I mean, I love Beatles. Obviously, Beatles are probably my favourite. I know I say Hollies, but it really is Beatles. But they're such an obvious thing to like. And, yeah, it just doesn't feel like it's the same guy who, when it had George and John who were able to, I don't know if Denny Lane or Eric Stewart or someone were able to sort of stand up and say, you know, actually, Paul, that's not that good an idea. Maybe, yeah, because I heard the guy, the Radiohead producer, apparently used to tell him, oh, Paul, that's not so good, and he'd get all miffed. He'd go, what? I'm Paul McCartney. How dare you tell me that? And it's like, yeah, but you wanted me to produce your album. And that's so everyone in the world raves about Chaos and Creation. I don't get that album at all. It's one of the ones, it just does nothing for me. Or maybe I've tried to listen to it again and again, and I can't. So I think I'm waffling a bit. I'm making this video because this week, like yesterday or a couple of days ago, damn, I've forgotten. It's not Boys. It's The Songs You Leave Behind, isn't it? The Memories You Leave Behind. Damn, I can't remember the name of it now. It's bad of me because it was really, really good, is what I'm saying. It got released. I knew that the thing was going to come out, this new album, Boys from Dungeon Lane and that. And then they released a lyric video of this new song of his. And it came on, and straight away I thought, and it had the lyrics and things, and I thought, he's good again. I got my phone, my message. There's a few group of people who I talked to about this, and I put, oh my God. I put, holy heck. Paul McCartney is good again. I just pressed send. He is. So I'm saying this whole. I am saying not that it matters. Who cares what I think? But in case there are people who sort of know about my film and maybe are watching my channel, might want to know what I think about it. Paul McCartney is good again. It happened. Like, it was amazing. It was emotional. It was. I don't think his voice is even warbly on it. It's probably tender as... Maybe he's not singing a rock and roll song, so he gets away with it. It sounds like he's singing a harmony with himself. It's not a voice that sounds like his, but from what other reviewers have said, it's him doing all the instruments and all the singing. I don't know, it might be an uncredited guest singer, and it's just finger-picking acoustic. There's a thing, it says piano solo, doesn't it? But it's not. I don't know what it is, if it's a mellotron or what it is, but it says piano solo on it. This song is, and he's talking about the line about cheap guitars and da-da-das. What is it? Da-da-das. Cheap coffee bars, is it? Coffee bars, cheap guitars. I thought, this is not a guy pretending or who had to be reminded. For the first time, this is what I'm saying. For the first time in all the hundreds and hundreds of interviews I've seen him do in the 25 years since... when Linda McCartney, actually it's more like 29 years since Linda McCartney died, but since Anthology was over, for the first, and he's doing the whole Paul McCartney world tour thing, and he's got this band with Brian Ray in it and Rusty Anderson, you know, this version of Paul McCartney, 21st century Paul McCartney, it is for the first time for me that I felt like it really, really is the real him, just remembering it and not just making something up, spinning it himself like he does Anthology, driving a tugboat going, "Where hey, rubber soul," like. They did not go, "Where hey, rubber soul." I don't care what. They did not stick their thumbs up, fall out of a limousine, and go, "Where hey, rubber soul." They did not do that. I don't care what anyone says. This is the whole thing about people saying, would you rather see a tribute band or the real thing? I'd rather see a tribute band. Or would you rather interview Paul McCartney, the guy who was there himself, or somebody like David Bedford or Mark Lewison? I would rather someone like David Bedford or Mark Lewison. They did not go, they never once went, "Where hey, rubber soul." That never happened. "Where hey, revolver. It's the Beatles' White Album." Although that, I like that. I like when he does that. "It's the Beatles' White Album, short top." That I like. That's alright. But yeah, and it's just the first time, hearing this song was the first time it really, really felt real for him. I don't know if I'm going to go and buy the album. I'll wait for it to come out. We now live in an age where you couldn't do this 20 years ago, maybe not even 10 years ago, where you could listen to a whole album on YouTube. I'll probably do that. I said to a friend of mine, I'll load up all the songs, I'll put them on double speed, and I'll put them on while I'm doing something else, you know what I mean? But I probably will do that. And then if I love it, I might end up buying this album. I really might end up buying this new Paul McCartney album. And I don't. Some people have already. You always get, "Oh, I don't like the artwork." It's like, it's the Beatles' White Album, short top. It's like, it's brilliant. It's a Liverpool road sign that says Dungeon Lane on it, and it's written Paul McCartney on it. What's wrong with it? It's perfect. It's perfect. You always get fans. See, I get a hard time for saying, you know, Paul McCartney used to be good, or that, and it's just a joke, really. That I don't really mean that as I've. You know, I hope I've demonstrated how big a fan of his I am, and that you're allowed to say this stuff. You're allowed, you know. You're not. I don't think there's people who think he's, "Oh, Paul, you're," and they hold up signs and that, and it just gets a bit cross for me. That's all. I mean, I'm happy that I'd rather they do that than, you know, jump off cliffs. You know what I mean, or like stab each other. But it's just for me, not for me. That's all. It's just not for me. That's all. Like, and there's a guy doing cartwheels, going, "Oh, Paul, Sir Paul," and I hate. I hate Sir Paul. I hate it. I will never. But I mean, he himself, I think he has said, "Look, you know, you can just call me Paul if you like," which is, you know, fair enough. I don't think he'll insist on you calling him Sir or anything, but yeah. So that's it. Just wanted to make this video to talk about that. Really, you know, it's my reaction as it's happened. And again, there's going to be loads of things I forgot to mention, aren't there? I'm going over it in my brain right now. The albums, standing in the queue, the concerts. The footage, the interviews, yeah, the glasses, him rubbing the glasses. Yeah, I've talked about all that, and the story repeating. God, I think if I've forgotten anything, I'll mention it in the comments or I'll put it in the blurb. But that's basically me reacting to this new thing, which I just got emotional about. I thought it was brilliant. I've watched it and watched it and watched it. Of course, I've forgotten it now, haven't I? But and I'm going to go and watch it again. Oh, and the trailer. I love the trailer with the photo of Brian Epstein, and they're in like a cafe that looks like the 1940s. So this is what. So he's remembering the 1940s. Never mind the 60s. Like he would have been. He'd remember the 40s. You know, you remember being 5, don't you? And he was 5 in 1947. So he probably still remembers the 40s and it's maybe the 50s when he was hitchhiking with George and things before he met John. And there are some baby photos of his that I'd never seen. I mean, childhood photos. Some of them look like they've got his mother in them. There's a woman who looks like what I think his mother looks like, because I've only seen a couple of pictures of her, and they've not been. Obviously, they're not going to be high quality. If she died in 1956, was it 56? It was 1956, I think it was. And obviously, they're not going to be very, very, very high quality. And it's just nice. And I'm assuming the other kid with him is Mike McCartney. So the boys he's talking, it might be Paul and Mike. Because Mike's son is Josh McCartney, is that right? And he's done the artwork. This is stuff I'm finding out and piecing together now. So maybe he's not going to sing about George. Maybe he's singing about his brother then. See, I don't know. And another thing I'm pleased because with this whole Beatles story, it feels like we know everything about John's like childhood gang. It was like Just William, and they had Pete shot on and people, and like derailing a tram in Penny Lane and shoplifting and all the stuff they used to get up to and that. But you don't really hear about Paul's. At least if you do, you don't know about. That's one thing where normally I say everything's so Paul-centric all the time, but this is one instance where everything is John-centric. So it'd be good to hear, like, Paul's sort of growing up, if he had a childhood gang just like John did and stuff like that. And imagine if they somehow bumped into, I know they would have been 2 years different, but can you imagine these kids in Liverpool, like 6 years old, going, oh my god, there are some really big 8-year-olds around the corner, and it turned out to be John Lennon. Imagine if it was Paul McCartney going, hey, have you heard about these grown lads up, stay away from them, they're going to beat us up or whatever. And they were 6, and one of them was Paul McCartney, and the gang they were talking about was John Lennon's gang. Wouldn't that be amazing? They do that. These fans do these. They put boy pictures of them and they put them together, don't they? And they go, wait, just you wait until we grow up or whatever it is. And it's like Ringo and George, and they're childhood photos. And maybe they use AI, maybe they use Photoshop, and they put it together. Anyway, that's enough of that. It has come to the end here, and now it's stopped being all windy and that. I'm at my mum's house, and you think my house in Deptford looks like this, my flat in Deptford looks like this. No, it doesn't. Hope this came out, hope it came across. That's my take on Boys from Dungeon Lane, and I'm dead excited about it, and I'm shooting this in real time, and I'm putting it on my channel. I will get back to the Hollies videos as soon as I can. I don't know when. It should be soon though, because I'm due for another one of them. It'll be the album Hollies Sing Hollies, won't it? And the single He Ain't Heavy, He's My Brother. Couple of unreleased songs off rarities as well. A thing called Sign of the Times. That might be on there, because I don't think I've covered that yet. What am I? Is it Eleanor's Castle? No. What am I? She Looked My Way. There's a great song called She Looked My Way. That's going to be in the next episode of my Would You Believe Hollies podcast. I should probably sort those into a playlist. Anyway, Paul McCartney is good again. I'm saying it. I've got video evidence of me right now, Nathan Bassard, saying Paul McCartney is good again, and I'm alive to see it, and I'm so glad it's happened. I want him to be good. I'm not saying how. I'm not mocking him. I'm saying I want him to be good again, and it's happened. I'm alive. I'm here. It's happened. Paul McCartney is now good again, and I'm so pleased. I'm so excited. And I cannot wait to hear the rest of this album. You're probably going to get another video saying, well, that was rubbish, wasn't it? No, you won't really. Paul McCartney, he's done it. He's done it. 37 minutes, 36:55, 6, yeah. Paul McCartney's good again. I love that song. I got emotional over it. I'm going to listen to it again and again and again. And I look forward to the album. I'm really pleased about it. I'm glad. It's like, I don't know why. I'm just some schmuck in Deptford. Well, I'm in Lincolnshire now. But Paul McCartney's like the richest, most famous guy in the world. Why should I care? He's not going to, it shouldn't, but it does. It does. I care about art and things and credibility and stuff. Yeah, I'm making this video. Anyway, Paul McCartney is good again. And I'm dead excited about it. All right? Thanks again.